Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of A Plague Tale: Innocence. I played it on the Xbox One, it's also available on the PS4 and PC. So firstly, the story. This game takes place in the mid-1300s, so in the Middle Ages, and it takes place at the outbreak of the Bubonic Plague. You play as Amicia, who is a young French noble, and the Inquisition comes to her home, basically slaughters her family, and her and her younger brother have to flee. Throughout the story, Amicia and Hugo form their own little family with a group of other orphans, and there are adventures to be had throughout. I should also add that Hugo is sick, so that at times adds a bit of challenge to the game. I should also say that any twist that happened in this game, I kinda started to see long before it happened, which that isn't necessarily a knock against the game. I actually enjoyed the game overall, even though any twist that happened I saw in advance. Then you've got the audio. I love the sound effects in this game, man. If you've seen any promotional stuff for this game, you know that there are like hordes of rats, and the sound effect for those is really kind of horrible. But horrible in a good way, because it's terrifying when there are these hordes of rats chasing you, and the sound effects that they make is just kind of creepy. But the other sound effects in the game really work, and I love the soundtrack. It has this medieval vibe to it without going a little too far, so I really like the way it works, and it enhances the game. That being said, the voiceover work is not the greatest. I do love all the accents. They work very well. You have the French accents, you have some English accents going on. Because there are English people, it's not English people trying to be French. It's actually French people doing French accents, English characters with English accents. It works. But again, it's not like the top tier of voiceover work, but it is good enough, I would say, considering this isn't a AAA game. As for gameplay mechanics, this is a third-person stealthing game, mostly. It's not like the hardest core of stealth, but it is predominantly stealth, and they do give you nice little things to help with the sneaking. Like while sneaking about, if you pay attention to the borders of your screen, you will see where enemies are. There will be kind of like a line of light, and it works very well. It's subtle, and it's not too intrusive. There is some combat, but it's mostly based around stealth. Like trying to go at any enemy just head on is going to get you destroyed. But as you progress, you gain new items that can help you with other situations, like when you're up shit creek without a paddle, or other ways to stealth about, and other ways to solve some puzzles. None of the puzzles were too like mind-boggling though. There's also a crafting system for gear and ammo, so I like that. It's a good way to keep the game moving without it feeling too stale. The game isn't super short, neither is it super long, which works well. It's about 10 to 12 hours. And while there is no New Game Plus, which kind of disappointed me, you can bounce back to different chapters. So if you want to try and max out your gear, you can do that. If there are things you may have missed in a chapter and you want to get those achievements, you can do that chapter by chapter rather than replaying the whole game. But I do think a New Game Plus would have been nice. Then there's the controls. The controls are not flawless in this game. They do work pretty well. They work well for the most part. I didn't have any major complaints with them. There were just a few times where I was like, this feels a little sluggish. And you can't really combine buttons. You can't combine sprinting with vaulting over things or crouching. So you can't go from a sprint to a crouch. So that was kind of a bummer. I would have liked that. I would have liked if they were a little more advanced like that. I'll also say that the controller setup 1 is really unintuitive, or at least for me. I much preferred the game when I switched over to controller setup 2. I found that a far better way of having the controller mapped. Lastly, there are the graphics. I really dug the visuals of this game. I like the medieval vibe. I like the whole Yoldi Castle, Yoldi Forest kind of look. I liked the way they did the towns. I really loved the environments. I liked the outfits that the characters were wearing. There was a good amount of detail in that. There were a few places where it could have looked a bit better, but it still looked pretty good. As for the characters themselves, they look pretty good, but there's a few details that could have been better to just make them a bit more lifelike. There are small things like, while Amicia's ponytail or braid or whatever does move around, she has like these hairs draped in her face throughout the game that never shift or move. Most of the other characters' hair doesn't really move, and you can tell, and it just seems a bit odd. But that being said, I liked the visuals, and for the most part, I do think the graphics were pretty good, considering this isn't a AAA game. So to wrap this up, overall, I really enjoyed this game. I like the story, I enjoyed the visuals, I liked the setting, I enjoyed the gameplay. Pretty much everything about this game I did enjoy, while there are a few things that aren't like as amazing as they could be. Simply because it's not a AAA game, that doesn't mean it can't be a good game. I'm really glad I actually took the time and played this one. And because it's not a AAA game, it doesn't have the AAA price, which is nice. It's already a kind of discounted game, and it's worth the money. So I will actually recommend this game. I'm wholeheartedly recommending this game. I did enjoy it. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me if you're a fan of medieval games or that setting? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.